Morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. My name is Jim Hart, and I'm the chair of the Toronto Police Services Board. Welcome to this virtual meeting of our board. I will now read the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement. Although this meeting is taking place virtually, we acknowledge that the land we're on as we hold this meeting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. The board also acknowledges that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed by the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed by multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. Members, are there any declarations of interest on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, I'll now turn this meeting over to our Executive Director and Chief of Staff, Mr. Ryan Teschner. Ryan, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Hart, and good morning to everyone who has joined this virtual meeting. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed on the Toronto Police Service YouTube account and will be available there at the conclusion of this meeting. On the line today, we have Chair Jim Hart, Vice Chair Councillor Francis Nunziata, Mayor John Tory, Councillor Michael Ford, Member Ainsworth Morgan, Member Lisa Kostakis, and Member Ann Morgan. On the line, we also have members of our board office staff, Chief Raymer, his command team, members of the service, and of course, welcome to members of the public. We have individuals who have registered to make deputations on certain agenda items. As with our regular meeting process, deputations will be heard prior to the item being discussed and voted on by board members. When it comes time to do a deputation, those who have registered will be brought into the meeting by our colleague, Du Buchanan-Gisser. As always, deputants will speak, followed by an opportunity for board members to ask them questions. Mr. Chair, back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Teschner. Board members, I will now go through the agenda. Item number 1 is the confirmation of the minutes from the virtual meeting held on February the 28th, 2022. That item is held down for deputations. Item number 2 is the board's 2022-2023 business plan. That item is held down for deputations as well. Item number 3 is the Toronto Police Service Board nominee to the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards. Can I have a motion to approve item number 3? Vice Chair Nunziata, seconded by Ms. Kostakis. All in favor? Any opposed? Item number 3 carries. Item number 4, pre-qualification of general contractors for interior renovation and construction projects. Is there a motion to approve item number 4? Ms. Morgan, a seconder? Seconder. Ms. Kostakis, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. I can't see Mr. Morgan, by the way. Ryan, if Mr. Morgan is moving anything, let me know. And I can't see Councillor Ford either. Item number 5, contract award to POI Business Interiors LP for the supply, delivery, installation, and maintenance of steel case furniture. A motion to approve item number 5. Motion to approve.
Councillor Ford, Chair.
Thank you. A seconder? Ms. Morgan, all in favor? Any opposed? Item number 5 carries. Item number 6 is a contract award Next Generation 911 training room renovations. A motion to approve item number 6. I'll need your help on this, maybe Ryan. Ms. Kostakis, seconder.
Councillor Ford, seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Item number 6 carries. Item number 7 is special constable appointments and reappointments March 2022. A motion to approve item number 7. Vice Chair Nunziata, a seconder. Mr. Morgan, all in favor? Any opposed? Item number 7 carries. Item number 8 is the Toronto Police Service response to City Council motion EX 26.15. We have a deputation on item number 8, so I will hold that down. Item number 9 is the update from the board's Mental Health and Addictions Advisory Panel. I will hold down item number 9. Item number 10 is the 2021 secondment listing. I have a motion to receive item number 10.
Mayor Tory,
and Mayor Tory, all in favor? Opposed? Item number 10 carries. Item number 11 is the January 1st to December 31st, 2021 use of CEWs. A motion to receive item number 11. Ms. Morgan, seconder.
My sheet says, Mr. Chair, there's a deputation on that.
Written only.
Huh? Oh, I see, written only. Yes, of course, you're right. Sorry.
Motion. Did I have a seconder on that, Ryan?
Tori.
Tori. And I would like to thank Ms. Corrado for her written deputation. Thank you very much. Item number 12 is a quarterly report, occupational health and safety update for October the 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, and year-end summary and update on the well-being strategy. We have a deputation on item 12, so that's held down. Item number 13 is the annual report 2021 secondary activities. A motion to receive item number 13.
Councillor Ford.
And a seconder. Mr. Morgan, all in favor? Any opposed? Item 13 carries. Item number 14 is the annual report, Labor Relations Council and Legal Identification, cumulative legal costs from January the 1st to December 31st, 2021. And we have a deputation on item number 14. Item number 15 is the annual report, write-off of uncollectible accounts receivable balances, January the 1st, 2021 to December the 31st, 2021. A motion to receive. Item number 15. Vice Chair Nunziata, seconder.
I saw Councillor Ford, Chair.
Councillor Ford, all in favor? Any opposed? Item 15 carries. Item number 16 is the public minutes of meeting 77 held on December 16th, 2021 of the Central Joint Health and Safety Committee. A motion to receive item number 16. Motion to receive. Ms. Kostakis, seconder. Seconder. Councillor Ford, all in favor? Any opposed? Item 16 carries. Item number 17 is the Chief Administrative Investigation Reports. We have a written submission from Nicole Corrado. We would like to thank her for that. Motion to receive item number 17. Ms. Morgan, a seconder. Ms. Kostakis, all in favor? Any opposed? Item number 17 carries. We now move back to the top of the agenda. Item number 1, which is the minutes, and I believe we have 2 deputations on that item. Doobie, when you're ready.
Sir, we'll start with Derek Moran. Derek, you should receive a prompt from the system now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead when you're ready.
I'm just going to start my timer here. So in the minutes for last month's meeting, it mentions that Mayor Tory said that if deputants use inappropriate language, there are consequences and that this will not be accepted by the board. This is from Bracken versus the Town of Fort Erie, 2017, where the Ontario Court of Appeal said that no doubt they did not like being called liars and communists. Mr. Brady did not like Mr. Bracken calling for him to be fired, and then they go on to cite a Supreme Court case which said that democracy depends upon the free and open debate of public issues and the freedom to criticize the rich, the powerful, and those who exercise power and authority in our society. Debate on matters of public interest will often be heated, and criticism will often carry a sting, and yet open discussion is the lifeblood of our democracy. In Cousin versus Kwan, 2007, the Court of Appeal for Ontario said that democracy depends upon the free and open debate of public issues and the freedom to criticize the rich, the powerful, and those, such as police officers, who exercise power and authority in our society. Debate on matters of public interest will often be heated, and criticism will often carry a sting, and yet open discussion is the lifeblood of our democracy. If these exchanges are stifled, then democratic government itself is threatened. And this is from R versus Butler, 1992, where the Supreme Court of Canada said, As this court has repeatedly affirmed, the content of a statement cannot deprive it of the protection accorded by Section 2B, no matter how offensive it may be. The values which underlie the protection of freedom of expression relate to the search for truth. I think that's what Chris Langenfeld essentially last month, what he said was trying to get at, the truth. Participation in the political protest and individual self-fulfillment. So I sent Interim Chief Raymer an email after what happened last month, and I'll just read the end of it. As today was the second month for the new Chief's monthly report feature at TPSB meetings, as part of your report at next month's meeting, why don't you just play for all to see the video evidence which shows when, quote, numerous heavy trucks forced their way past our roadblock? This will vindicate you from what Chris said, and if that is the case, in return, I would expect Chris to give you an apology and to ask you to forgive him. On another note, I want to commend you again, Interim Chief Raymer, for your Freudian slip last month in referring to lawyers as liars, as I'm sure you heard Law Society of Ontario member Ryan Teschner make your point, and lied by omission today on the application of a municipal corporate bylaw of the Corporation of the City of Toronto operating as John Tory, operating as Toronto Police Services Board, so help me God, Garrett. But Miguel made two excellent points regarding this, on how the media widely reported on the smoke bomb incident at Queen's Park that day, and that someone was throwing dog poo at people incident that day. However, at no point did I hear anything in the media on where numerous heavy trucks forced their way past the TPS's roadblock that day. Considering how the mainstream media looks for every speck of dirt they can get on these freedom truckers, if they reported on the smoke bomb and they reported on the flying dog poo, then they certainly would have latched on to reporting on any dangerous sounding stories such as where numerous heavy trucks forced their way past your roadblock. So I look forward to watching the video evidence from Interim Chief Raymer of where numerous heavy trucks forced their way past your roadblock during his upcoming monthly report. And also in these minutes I mentioned, Mr. Ryan Teschner provided a general overview of the board's procedural bylaws, specifically in relation to the requirements for deputations, including conduct by deputants. Because Ryan and Mayor Tory kept mentioning how these rules are clear. They're not clear. There's no definition given by this board for what a person is, which applies to a deputation. You have no real definition for what a bylaw is. And when I asked for what the dictionary you guys got for what a deputation is, you guys claim solicitor-client privilege. So these rules are not clear. My time's up.
Thank you, Derek. Board members, any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, Doobie, can you put on the next deputant, please?
Yes, sir. Our next deputation will be from Chris Langenfeld. Chris, you're already unmuted. And we're starting your video now.
Thank you.
Efforts to penetrate the police perimeters was most tested on the north side of Queen's Park on Avenue Road, just south of Bloor, where numerous heavy trucks forced their way past our roadblock only to be prevented from reaching Queen's Park by City of Toronto trucks positioned across all lanes of traffic.
The photographic proof of what actually happened at Bloor and Avenue Road on February 5th leaves Torontonians asking, where is some evidence of Chief Raymer's claim that heavy trucks forced their way past our roadblock? And where are the claimed City of Toronto trucks positioned across all lanes of traffic?
Something that does actually exist is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and, as has been repeatedly pointed out to the Toronto Police Services Board, its guarantees include 2. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms, b. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression. including freedom of the press and other media of communication.
And, in case those constitutionally protected rights themselves weren't clear enough for some government workers and lawyers and politicians to be able to understand, the Ontario Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court of Canada have even gone further to explain to government agencies how they are required to interpret those guaranteed rights when they actually deal with the public.
Cousin v. Kwan, 2007 ONCA 771 can lie.
Paragraph 125, it is hardly necessary to repeat here the importance of the rights protected by Section 2B of the Charter, namely, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. These rights are an inherent aspect of our system of government and have been generously interpreted by the courts. Democracy depends upon the free and open debate of public issues and the freedom to criticize the rich, the powerful, and those such as police officers who exercise power and authority in our society. Freedom of expression extends beyond political debate to embrace the core values of self-fulfillment, the communal exchange of ideas, human dignity, and the right to think and reflect freely on one's circumstances and condition. Debate on matters of public interest will often be heated, and criticism will often carry a sting, and yet open discussion is the lifeblood of our democracy. This court recognized in R. v. Capito, 1987, that, if these exchanges are stifled, democratic government itself is threatened.
Bracken v. The Town of Fort Erie, 2017 ONCA 668 can lie.
Paragraph 58 continues. He also criticized the members of town council. No doubt, they did not like being called liars and communists. Mr. Brady did not like Mr. Bracken calling for him to be fired. On cross-examination, he stated that Mr. Bracken had no right to say so. He viewed it as a threat to his livelihood. The language was neither polite nor restrained. But as this court pointed out in Cousin v. Chuan, 2007, paragraph 125, democracy depends upon the free and open debate of public issues and the freedom to criticize the rich, the powerful, and those who exercise power and authority in our society. Debate on matters of public interest will often be heated and criticism will often carry a sting, and yet open discussion is the lifeblood of our democracy.
The truth is that members of the public who've dealt with recent iterations of the TPSB would agree with the court that democratic government itself is threatened because the free and open debate, public issues, and the freedom to criticize the rich, the powerful, and those, such as police officers, who exercise power and authority in our society, describe rights which no longer really exist in Toronto.
Of course, thank you to Derek for quoting those same court decisions. And Mayor Tory went off last month saying how he had been previously restricted from his free speech when he was employed both at City Hall and for the short period of time before voters kicked him out of the legislature. And it's apparent he doesn't realize the difference between constitutionally protected rights for the public of free speech and the requirements that he's required to agree to, the limitations on his free speech in exchange for a $200,000 a year paycheck. And hopefully I'd like to hear what the board has to say about having violated my rights last month and in previous months, and also about the chief's misstatement of facts.
Thank you, Mr. Langenfeld. Board members, any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, thank you for your deputation. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 28th? Motion to approve. Vice Chair Nunziata, seconded by Councillor Ford. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We'll now go to the Chief's monthly verbal update. Chief, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members and members of the public. For this month's update, I'll discuss the current hate crime landscape, followed by some brief comments on the OPP's investigation into matters surrounding retired Detective Paul Warden. Over the past number of weeks, there has been an increase in hate-related incidents in our city. Many of these incidents have generated media attention and have rightfully caused anger, hurt, and uncertainty for our affected communities. I'll preface my comments by once again reassuring the community that the Toronto Police Service treats hate-motivated incidents as a top priority. We are fully aware of the impacts they have, not only on individuals, but on entire communities and their sense of safety and security. Since becoming chief, I've made it my practice to meet regularly with the leaders of the various affected communities to demonstrate my commitment to them, and I will continue to do so. As I've stated publicly, we expanded the size of our hate crime unit in 2020 in the midst of a spike in incidents targeting a number of our traditionally impacted communities, and we will expand it again this year as, regrettably, we are seeing further increases. Most recently, we have seen the largest increases in incidents targeting the Black community, the Jewish community, and now the Ukrainian and Russian communities. With respect to the Black community, so far in 2022, we have been called to investigate 22 hate-motivated incidents, hate-motivated crimes. According to our hate crimes unit, this is an increase of 10 such incidents over this same period in 2021. In addition to the 22 hate crime occurrences, there have been an additional 4 hate-motivated incidents, meaning incidents motivated by hate that, while equally disturbing, don't meet the threshold for criminality under the criminal code. With respect to the Jewish community, to date we have been called to investigate 19 anti-Semitic hate crimes. At this time last year, we had 9 such incidents. In addition to the 18 confirmed hate crimes, there have been 6 additional anti-Semitic incidents that did not meet the threshold for criminality. With respect to the Ukrainian and Russian communities, 2 groups for which we had not received a single hate crime report in recent years, we have already had 10 hate crimes or hate-motivated incidents so far this year targeting the Ukrainian community, and 4 hate crimes or hate-motivated incidents targeting the Russian community. The reality is that hate crime will always be an issue for police services to confront. But what the past 2 to 3 years has clearly demonstrated is the impact that world events have on fueling hatred here in our country and in our city. From conflict in the Middle East to the outbreak of COVID in the Far East, to high-profile events in the United States, and now to the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, each of these world events led to increases in hate-motivated incidents right here in Toronto. I also want to address the unfortunate reality that several of the hate-motivated incidents have occurred on school board properties. The majority have occurred during this month at a time when our schools, our kids and staff are still reeling from the tragic murder of a student that occurred in one of our high schools. Our commitment to our school board partners during this time will continue to be unwavering. That anyone would use a school as a venue to promote hate is beyond disappointing. That it would be done at a time of unspeakable grief for our schools is frankly deplorable. Although I'm prevented from discussing the specifics of our ongoing investigations, I want the community to know that each and every incident of hate is being investigated to the fullest extent. I'll conclude by commenting on an incident that occurred in Peel Region back on March 19th, but which undoubtedly impacted so many in the Muslim community. During a Saturday morning prayer service, a man armed with weapons, including knives, entered a mosque in Mississauga intent on harming the congregants. He was subdued by a group of men, some of whom were sprayed by bear spray as they confronted him. Thanks to their actions, the male was arrested and charged by the Peel Regional Police Service. In the wake of this, I want to assure the Muslim community that the Toronto Police Service immediately directed our frontline officers to pay special attention to the many mosques here in the City of Toronto. Again, it is not lost on us how incidents like these have a destabilizing effect on entire communities. The service will remain vigilant in our efforts to not only solve these crimes when they occur in our city, but we will continue to make every effort to ensure that the members of the most diverse city in our country and perhaps the world can go about their lives with a sense of safety and security. The second item I'll discuss in this month's update pertains to former Detective Paul Warden, at least to the extent that I am able. You'll recall that this matter relates to allegations of theft of drug exhibits by the former detective, and that I engaged the OPP to conduct whatever investigations they deemed appropriate. I can confirm what appears to be known already, that I received the OPP's reports, and there are two, just before Christmas. For various legitimate reasons, such as the legislative requirements of the Police Services Act, I can say very little about the OPP investigations or their recommendations. That said, one particular aspect of the matter can be addressed. Notwithstanding a long history of cooperation between our investigators and the Crown's office, it is apparent that there was a lack of clarity by some within our professional standards unit, which investigates suspected misconduct by members of the service, as to when they must consult with the Crown. That situation has been remedied. I have implemented a unit-specific policy at professional standards that eliminates any doubt about when the Crown must be consulted, and indeed, it goes further to encourage more consultation with the Crown generally. This closer working relationship with the Crown reflects the modern realities of policing and prosecuting. Both the police and the Crown have our separate constitutional roles within the criminal justice system. However, we must work in collaboration in today's environment to ensure optimal public protection and the preservation of individual freedoms. I am taking the unusual step of making the unit-specific policy public by providing it to the board today for you and for the public to see. And lastly, during my February comments regarding the truck convoy's attempts to occupy Queen's Park Circle, I stated that on February 5th, numerous heavy trucks forced their way past our Avenue Road and Bloor Street roadblock, only to be stopped by City of Toronto trucks parked across all lanes of traffic. A deputant, Mr. Lagenfeld, subsequently took exception to this comment, claiming it to be inaccurate. As an organization, we strive for accuracy and we expect to be held accountable. As such, I immediately looked into his objection. There were two separate incidents, albeit related incidents, that fit into my comments from last month's update. The first incident occurred north of Bloor Street at Davenport Road. Officers were attempting to prevent trucks from getting south of Davenport on Avenue Road and set up a roadblock for southbound traffic. These efforts were thwarted by protesters who drove their trucks southbound in the northbound lanes. This was a blatant breach of our initial perimeter at Avenue and Davenport Roads. There is photographic evidence of this online. Officers then attempted to prevent the vehicles from getting any further south by blocking Avenue Road at Bloor Street. The second incident occurred shortly after the Davenport Avenue Road breach when a protester began slowly driving his truck into the police line at Avenue Road in Bloor. This forced the officers to retreat southbound on foot as the truck continued to nudge forward. There are recorded police communications that clearly describe these events. This allowed additional trucks to proceed southbound intent on following behind him. As I stated in last month's update, these trucks were prevented from getting any closer to Queen's Park by City of Toronto trucks that were brought in to block off the entire roadway. I'll reiterate that once prevented from establishing a vehicle occupation on Queen's Park Circle, the vast majority of protesters exited their vehicles and were permitted to engage in lawful demonstration on the grounds of Queen's Park. I trust that this clears up any confusion as to what occurred on the day in question. This concludes my March update. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Board members, any questions of the Chief on the update? Seeing none, could I have a motion to receive the update from the Chief? Territorius, seconder. Ms. Kostakis, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Now we'll move forward to item number 2, which is the board's 2022-2023 business plan. And I believe we have 3 deputations on that item. Doobie, when you're ready.
Yes, sir. Our first deputant is Nicole Corrado. Nicole, you should receive a prompt from the system now.
Yes, thank you. The Missing Persons Recommendations Implementation Team, or Missing and Missed Implementation Team, will end up making the missing persons search and rescue process easier. Having neighborhood officers who know their neighbors being part of a missing person search and rescue is a great move forward. As a member of the MMIT, I am happy to see Toronto Police moving forward with these issues. The mobile crisis intervention teams have greatly improved thanks to input from neurodivergent persons, and I should mentioned that the mobile intervention teams are separate from the MMIT, even though the name is similar. Quieter uniforms, more training, and a 24-hour service will make a difference. However, as can be seen in items 11, use of conducted energy weapons in 2021, and item 17.3, custody injury of a CAMH patient by police and security guards, many persons in crisis are greeted with a use of force response from police. Many of these persons did not seem to pose any danger to other people, just to themselves. Women made up about half of the 13 mental health crisis tasering calls mentioned in the item 11 taser report. As a small autistic woman, this deeply concerns me. The 2021 taser report perfectly demonstrates the need to detask police from person in crisis calls. Many of the persons in crisis were fully tasered or given excruciatingly painful shocks. While there were attempts to talk to the persons in crisis, police are not trained social workers. In one case, a man in crisis in a homeless shelter was fully tasered because one solo officer was the only attendee to the call. Police seem to be aggravating factors in at least one of the other cases. And in one case, the mobile crisis intervention team was present. There needs to be a non-police model to all persons in crisis cases, including cases in which a person is suicidal. I would prefer that Toronto invest fully in a non-police community crisis response model like the ones used in Eugene, Oregon, and the state of Illinois. And in the state of Illinois, it is actually legally mandated that they have a non-police option. 911 services also need to be moved from police to a non-police agency. The Gerstein Center model of crisis call diversion is one that needs to be replicated across the city. The next generation 911 service, texting, would make 911 services fully accessible, especially for deaf persons and persons who spell to communicate. Item 8 deals with the Vulnerable Persons Registry and the Disability Community Consultative Committee. These related services benefit many, but could use more input from persons who have the disabilities being discussed and receiving the services. I would like to see more persons with disabilities on these committees rather than non-disabled representatives from disability service providers representing people with disabilities. As an autistic person and self-registered Vulnerable Persons Registry user, I am particularly interested in item 8. The Vulnerable Persons Registry is based on incident reporting software and is very hard to use, especially for persons with disabilities. I would suggest switching to a platform like www.vulnerablepersonsregistry.ca, which is used by Waterloo and Guelph. I am autistic, and there intersect many possible police services, including the Mobile Crisis Intervention Team, Mental Health and Addictions Panel, the Vulnerable Persons Registry Coordinator, and the Persons with Disabilities Community Consultative Committee. By working together, the various committees could better streamline services.
Thank you, Ms. Corrado. Appreciate your comments. Board members, any questions for Ms. Corrado? Seeing none, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today, and thank you for all your written submissions on the other items. We really appreciate your engagement. Dewey, please put on the next deputant.
Sir, our next deputation is from John Sewell. John, you should receive a prompt from the system now.
Hi, it's John Sewell speaking, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Toronto Police Accountability Coalition. And we have 6 items we think should be added to the business plan. First is that we think the board should be pushing to end suspension with full pay. As we know, this is one of the things that put the police in great disrepute, that they get paid after they've been charged with criminal offenses, among other things. Alberta has abandoned this idea, and the chief can now suspend without full pay. We think that the board should be pushing the 3 political parties at Queen's Park to make this an issue in the election campaign in June. Secondly, we think the board should be dispensing with the rule of 2 officers in a car after dark. The current collective agreement allows you to do this. Most of the calls, more than 90% of all the calls the police receive, have nothing to do with violence. There's no need to put 2 officers in a car for those calls. The savings would be considerable if we just did mostly 1 officer calls and only use the 2 officer calls for dangerous calls. A lot of money gets saved there. Thirdly, we think the board should be moving to institute pre-charge screening. Pre-charge screening now happens in 3 other provinces, very successful. In Toronto, 68% of the charges laid by the Toronto Police are either withdrawn or rejected by the courts. That's more than 2/3 of all the charges laid. In Quebec, where they have pre-charge screening, only 10% of the charges are withdrawn or rejected by the courts. The saving, and in British Columbia, it's a bit more than that, but much, much, much less than in Toronto. Again, this is something that the board should be pushing the political parties at Queen's Park to deal with after the election. It's a very important thing. It will save an awful lot of money for the police and for the criminal justice system and for the public. Fourthly, we think that you should be beginning a program to disarm the rank and file officers. If you look at item number 11 on the board's agenda, you'll notice that there were just over 1.3 million calls for service, of which 46,000 were calls involving violence. So what it means is that 96% of the calls the police receive have nothing to do with violence. And there's no need to send somebody with a gun and a taser and body armor. So I think that, and in fact, when you look at it, it also mentions the number of people who are charged annually in Toronto, almost 23,000 people, which is less than 1 per officer every 2 months. So there's not a lot of reason for officers to be so armed. And you should be moving to begin to change that so we can have a police force that better serves the public. Fifthly, we think you should begin detasking. There's an awful lot of calls that, in fact, we don't need police for. There's nothing involving criminal activity, and you should begin to work on that. And lastly, and we were surprised to see that the business plan doesn't include hiring a new chief. We thought that was something you were trying to do. It should be on the list. So there are some very useful ideas that are going to save a lot of money and will make really, really useful changes to the way that policing happens in Toronto. We think the board has a real obligation to try and address those things rather than just going on as business as usual. There's real things you should be doing, and we'd ask you to begin working on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sewell. Board members, any questions for Mr. Sewell? None. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate it. Doobie, can you put on the last deputant, please?
Sir, our last deputation is from Albert Bensel. Albert, you should receive a prompt from the system now.
Hello, I'm here. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, good morning. I'll just skip the preamble and get right into it. I heard back from an investigator at the commission into Gabriel Wortman. They claimed the review denies that they know anything. This is a bold-faced lie. There is, in fact, an audio recording wherein I correctly predict Wortman with name, date, and place prior to event. Epstein failed to issue a warrant to arrest Wortman. I do not care how inconvenient they find it to be cross-examined. You know what is even more inconvenient than that? The victims of Nova Scotia being shot in the head and then bleeding out. I also speak on their behalf, who are not here to defend themselves, and all future victims. By lying over these serious and grave matters, they are practically guaranteeing new information to be squandered. More events with more innocent victims are coming, which could have been prevented. Shame on the review. It is a basic principle of jurisprudence not to expect the accused to incriminate themselves. I call upon this board to subpoena the review, have them testify under oath. If they continue to lie, lay criminal charges of obstruction, contempt, and perjury. That is how it works. I am perfectly comfortable to swear in and provide my statement under oath. The review cannot say the same. Will this board forthwith contact the Nova Scotia commissioners and provide them with the truth, the full audio recording, the coronavirus mass email, the voir dire of the review? Or will they abide by the lie and allow future innocent victims to die in vain? This is a legacy issue, a defining moment. Sandler should look forward to being crossed by the commission. There's a few possible outcomes. They perform another whitewash and cover-up wherein no one benefits, or this will finally break the matter, take new information, and come up with a constructive action plan. Also, Zero Point Energy is working. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much for your deputation. Board members, any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, we'll now bring this matter to the board. Board members, any questions of staff? Any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Teschner, can you see any? I can't see everyone.
No questions that I see, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the business plan? Motion to approve? Ms. Morgan, seconder? Seconder, Ms. Kostakis, all in favor? Any opposed? Item number 2 carries. We now move forward to item number 8, which is the Toronto Police Service response to City Council motion EX 26.15. Doobie, did the deputant call in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, put them on when you're ready. Board members.
All right. Miguel, can start when you're ready.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Awesome. So yesterday, I attended the executive committee. We were discussing actions to advance truth and justice for Indigenous people in the City of Toronto Reconciliation Action Plan 2022-2032. So today I'm here to speak on item 8, which is related to accommodations and disabilities. So probably by now everybody understand that I have disabilities, both physical and invisible. I used to be an employee of the Toronto Zoo, and in 2009, they fired me because they could not find proper accommodations to my mental illness. I lost my home, my family, my car, my life. Got evicted by Toronto police assistance, by the way. I ended up homeless in the street with my dog, Fido. So disabilities rights matters, and to me, this is my fight for change. In 2020, I have a mental breakdown, but I'm glad that I got the help in time to save my life. I want to thank to the community for coming forward with suggestions. Why don't you call Gerson Center? Maybe they will be able to hear you, listen to you. Also, staff from my building, Dakota, a health support agency operating out of 220 Oak Street, they spoke to me. And I was able to walk into the emergency room of the St. Michael's Hospital. So here I am alive. Thanks for that intervention. So I spoke yesterday again on item 10 to ask the Police Services Board to commit to reconciliation efforts guided by the values and principles set out and considered by annual reporting by staff of these organizations on the work being undertaken to their respective boards. So I want to end my deputation by repeating what I said to John yesterday. We need to reset this board if you want truly to have a truth and reconciliation plan for indigenous people. Please, John, it's been 8 years here in this board. I think it's time to get new people in to fill in these chairs. Progress is warranted. Please put people in like my friend Derek. Why not? About Chris, about Desmond Cole, and other indigenous progressive activists that should be sitting on this table for changes, because don't worry, it's not about putting money into a plan. It's about truly doing action. And by that I mean that, you cannot continue with this broken system. It has to end. All we do is patching it here, there, and there. But come on, the bubble is going to explode one day, and we see it on the streets in Ward 13, where, I live in the epicenter of the mental health crisis. And I know how our Regent Park community neighborhood officers, I want to give a big shout out to all the Regent Park cops and Sergeant Dick, because they treat people with professionalism. They treat our members of our community in a very respectful and kind way. So that is what I see on the street, and I want you to let you know here at the board. So my advice, again, John Tory, if you're running for a third term, we need really truly change that is going to be beneficial to everybody. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm here to answer any questions, as always.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you for your deputation. Board members, any questions of Miguel? Seeing none, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. We all appreciate it. Board members, any questions on item number 8? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Luis Kostakis, seconded by Ann Morgan. All in favor? Any opposed? Item number 8 carries. We'll now move forward to item number 9, which I held down, which is the update from the board's Mental Health and Addictions Advisory Panel. I believe that Steve Lurie and Jennifer Chambers are on the line to answer any questions we may have. I see Steve anyway. Board members, I'll go to you first. I have a couple of questions. Any questions of the authors of the report? Board members? Seeing none, I'll start something off. Either Steve or Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about the work, in particular in the last year with the service, and where you see progress within the service?
So maybe Jennifer can lead off and then I'll follow up. Is that okay?
Sure.
I wanted to make to the board, is it all right if I go ahead with that, Chair Hart?
Absolutely. Yep.
So, Chair Hart, members of the board, thank you for receiving this report. We've been overseeing the Toronto Police Service Mental Health and Addiction Strategy. I'll mention a few areas of the strategy here. So data capture has been a substantial concern, as this enables an analysis of the scope and location of issues, such as the intersection of people in crisis, race, and use of force, and pathways for better or worse, such as community referrals, mental health apprehensions, and arrests. The data collection and analysis is still a work in progress, but we have been able to see that it is progressing. There has been considerable consultation by the service on what information must be collected and made available to all Torontonians. We did lose some ground for some years, even before the pandemic, on the reviewing of mental health related training before it was delivered to service members. But I believe we're getting back on track, and that this will include intersectionality, such as that of being Black and being in crisis and encountering police. Body-worn cameras are going to provide an opportunity for supervisors to better track how training is being used in the field. Accountability and transparency are a feature of the strategy. MAP has requested of TPS that reporting gives greater clarity to where items are in their implementation, and that the standards for full implementation be set by community representatives. So this was acknowledged. We'll continue to monitor CEW use and raise our concerns about their use and threat of use, which should not be confused with de-escalation. And next year, MAP wants to expand community representation and participation and focus on deliverables. We've also considered initiatives for service member wellness. People can only give what they have to give. Police are part of the Toronto community, all of whom deserve to thrive. The landscape for people having crises in Toronto is about to change. 4 community and consent-based crisis pilots are about to begin. This could well mean that instead of other people calling 911 when a person is thought to be having a particularly bad time, there will be services that the person themselves will contact and want to use. People on the receiving end of mental health services have been asking for this since before MCIT was developed. It's taken this long for the voice of the people most affected to be heard and acted upon. What this will mean for policing in terms of alternatives to calling police, referrals from police, entirely different outcomes for the people involved will all be tracked and evaluated, and the MAP will be glad to assist the board with the implications. Less will be more in terms of policing of mental health issues. This is something on which everyone agrees. While MAP's work includes overseeing the implementation of the strategy, and to some extent considering the context of the board's 81 recommendations for police reform and inquest recommendations, we must also be alive to what we learn as we go. So we look forward to working with you towards ever advancing our goals as well as the progress towards them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Steve, did you want to say something before I address that question?
Yeah, I just want to pick up on a couple of the points. Jennifer did a great job laying out, I think, the overall approach that MAP has been taking. And I think there are 2 issues that MAP and the board do need to work together on. One is we've had some meetings with the Anti-Racism Advisory Panel and the issue of the policy forum is one that is sort of punted to the board and the 2 advisory panels. And so we need to decide what the approach will be and when these meetings will be, whether they'll be online, virtual, or whether they'll be in person. There's a lot of material, I think, to cover, updating on the 81 recommendations, the discussion about the community crisis projects, and most importantly, the implications of the work that TPS and others are doing on data. And I'll return to that point in a few minutes. So basically, we look forward to working with the board, probably through Ryan, on making some decisions about when that panel policy forum should occur and the content. The other item that's related to that in terms of work with the board is we have, I guess, a 3-year mandate, and that's a big surprise a bit, but it's coming up soon. There are some vacancies on the panel, and I think we'd like to work with the board to establish a process for a recruitment of new members and some timelines. So those are the 2 sort of action items with the board. I just want to build on some of Jennifer's comments. We've been very, very impressed by the work that Toronto Police Services has done in relation to data. And I think data harmonization is going to be a big issue going forward, particularly with the community crisis projects. We need to be able to get a sense of what are the issues that are still coming to police for resolution. Obviously, the development of a protocol around violence, which will identify when the police go and when the 4 community-based teams go. But we also know that in that project itself, even though we're going to have teams available in 4 locations, there are only 2 teams per location, and so there's likely to be continued requirements for the police to attend. So I think it'll be really interesting to use the evaluation that CAMH is doing, and I would encourage Toronto Police Services to meet with Nadine Reed and see if we can develop a harmonized approach to data capture, both in terms of the qualitative data. I know, Chair Hart, you're interested in what are the outcomes. So we need to make sure that the 4 pilot sites and the police have an agreement on how we can assess outcomes. And I think that's as well as, again, the kind of problems that are being seen. And this also has implications for the work that MCIT does. So we look forward to working with Toronto Police Board and continuing our role as an advisory panel. Obviously, as Jennifer mentioned, the other key area is to look at the progress on the strategy. But I think going forward, you know, the rollout of the Community Crisis Project is going to be pretty crucial. It's got a 3-year timeline. Jennifer and I have been asked to join the community advisory table, so we'll be able to provide you, if you require details on how that's going. And I've been asked to co-chair that table along with Denise Campbell. So we look forward to continuing to provide you with our advice. We look forward to working with you both on recruitment of new panel members and the policy forum. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Jennifer. Board members, any questions of either Steve or Jennifer? Seeing none, I want to thank you both for the work that you've done bringing this report forward. Also, the work that I fortunately get to see you do up close all the time. You put in a lot of time and a lot of effort in serving this board and serving your city, and we all thank you very much.
Thank you. It's our pleasure to serve.
Board members, a motion to receive. Ms. Kostakis, seconder. Meritori, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you both again so much. We'll now move forward to item number 12, which is the quarterly report occupational health and safety update for October the 1st to December 31st, 2021, and year-end summary and update on the well-being strategy. And we have one deputant. Doobie, when you're ready.
Yes, sir. Derek, you're up.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to start my clock here. So in this report, it says, members trust the service and each other to nurture a culture of high performance, health, safety, and well-being. Well, you guys finally did it. You guys actually acknowledged there's vaccine injuries going on with TPS members, as Joe Warmington of the Toronto Sun has written about at least a couple times in this report. You guys even refer to these COVID vaccine injuries these vaccines are really dangerous experimental gene therapy products. You refer to them as harmful substances / environmental incidents. That's interesting euphemism there. So I just wanted to read to you a Superior Court of Ontario case that just came down last month regarding this, in which this is from JN versus CG, which the court said that the original inventor of the mRNA vaccine, core platform technology currently used to create the vaccines, is Dr. Robert W. Malone. And I guess he's quoting Dr. Malone at some points. And so it mentions, however, for an experimental genetic modifying approach that has not been fully tested and where the public are effectively the guinea pigs, this information should be immediately and readily available. He says, the suppression of information, discussion, and outright censorship concerning these current COVID vaccines, which are based on gene therapy technologies, cast a bad light on the entire vaccine enterprise. Furthermore, we must fully disclose any and all risks associated with these experimental research products. And I put the link in there to Canley for that case if anyone wants to look it up. There's also an article on Canley just an article from, I'm supposing this guy may be a doctor or a lawyer, Timothy A. Caulfield. He mentions, in fact, recently a patient enrolled in a controversial gene therapy experiment at the University of Pennsylvania died, allegedly as a result of his participation in the study. So while some significant scientific advances have occurred, gene therapy has yet to produce any of the revolutionary treatments predicted. The authors note that a recent NIH panel investigating gene therapy concluded that clinical efficacy had not been definitively demonstrated at this time in any gene therapy protocol. This despite the initiation of over 100 gene therapy products protocols in the U.S. alone. And then goes on to quote a Washington Post article about gene therapy risk, another Washington Post article titled NIH Not Told of Deaths in Gene Studies. Moderna, to their credit, in their annual report, also mentioned that currently mRNA is considered a gene therapy product by the FDA. However, side effects observed in gene therapy could negatively impact the perception of mRNA medicines despite the differences in mechanism. This is from Acutus Therapeutics versus Arbutus Biopharma Corporation 2017, where the Supreme Court of British Columbia said, mentions here background facts. The agreement included a term whereby Acutus was licensed to research, develop, and commercialize products based on antisense or gene therapy. The court then goes on to state that vaccines are not based on gene therapy. And so this is from a YouTube link I provide where Stephen Ulrich, the head of the pharmaceuticals division for the pharmaceutical company Bayer, had this to say recently at the World Health Summit about these mRNA shots being passed off as vaccines to deal with COVID. He stated that ultimately, the mRNA vaccines are an example for that cell and gene therapy. I always like to say, if we had surveyed 2 years ago in the public, would you be willing to take a gene or cell therapy and inject it into your body? We would have probably had a 95% refusal rate. So remember, these are not COVID vaccines. These are dangerous experimental gene therapy products that you're forcing onto your own TPS members. That's my time.
Thank you, Derek. Board members, any questions? Seeing none. Board members, quarterly report, occupational health and safety. Any questions on the report? Seeing none, anyone wish to speak to it? No. Motion to receive. Motion to receive. Vice Chair Nunziata, second by Ms. Kostakis. All in favor? Any opposed? Item 12 carries. We now move to our last item on the public agenda, which is the annual report, Labor Relations Council and Legal Identification, cumulative legal costs, January the 1st to December 31st, 2021, and we have one deputant. When you're ready, Doobie.
Derek, you're ready to go.
Okay, just going to set my timer here. I just want to say by me speaking at this meeting, this shall not be deemed to be in any way my consent expressed or implied in doing so as fraud. God bless Her Majesty the Queen and long live Her Majesty the Queen. And based on Law Society of Ontario member Ryan Teschner's comments last month regarding how clear the rules are concerning deputants, if I've ever led this board to believe that I am a person as mentioned in the board's definition for what a deputation is, then that would be a mistake, and that I ask all of you to please forgive me. I just want to run down how many times the words in this report, this month's report, accountability was mentioned 17 times, transparency 23 times, trust 15 times, public trust 3 times, and open data 2 times. So the total costs for 2021 that the people of Toronto paid for legal bills, all concerning Toronto Police Service, turned out to be $2,963,489. Now, I think Chris Langenfeld would agree with me that it's become quite toxic here at the Toronto Police Services Board just to, if anything, find out simple information from the board, which is interesting because I mentioned this before, I forgot to put it into my written presentation, but in Endine versus British Columbia 2016, actually, I remember mentioning this to you 2 years ago in your office, Chair Hart. The Supreme Court of Canada said that it must be understood as an ensemble of practices and principles that are called upon in various contexts to serve our society's democratic ideals, one of which being the public's right to know the law and to understand its application. You may recall I attempted to ask a simple question last month to just try and get a simple yes or no answer to that question for Interim Chief Raymer on whether or not he just expects his TPS members to uphold the letter of the law. And you just like smugly said no and just moved on. So in order to deal with like the toxic environment here at the Toronto Police Services Board, I wanted to make a suggestion. It's found in the Courts of Justice Act, and I'm reading this from the Superior Court of Ontario's, I think it's LexisNexis practice book, where it describes what a declaratory relief is, which is a declaratory judgment is a formal statement by a court pronouncing upon the existence or non-existence of a legal state of affairs. A declaratory judgment is restricted to a declaration of the party's rights. It contains no provision ordering any party to do anything. Declaratory relief, being only a declaration of parties' rights, is mainly sought in commercial matters to help parties define their rights and as a means to settle matters amicably where reasonable people would otherwise disagree on their mutual obligations and wish to resolve the matter in order to avoid future disputes. In other words, a cause of action need not be extant at the time a party requests declaratory relief, because declaratory relief is in essence a request for an advanced ruling. Courts have discretion to refuse such relief. This is the type of relief contemplated in Section 108, subsection 2, a declaration of parties' rights with no coercive effect or remedial entitlement. So the operative word that I would point out simply is the word amicably. So, I mean, if you guys aren't going to, let us in, do anything regarding the public's right to know and to understand its application, and you've almost spent $3 million last year on going to court, like, what's an extra $220 to like amicably settle some of these things that is, kind of making speaking at this board, kind of quite nasty. It shouldn't be this way. Because I don't know if you heard, Chair Hart, but last month, what the hell? It looks like my timer stopped. Let me know. When I reach 5 minutes, Chair Hart. So I ended up having the police. What's that? What's that, Chair Hart?
You had 20 seconds. I'll let you go another 20. Go ahead.
All right. I just want to point out that I had the police called on me at City Hall yesterday. It was just gobsmacking to find out the head of security did not dismissively dismiss the Supreme Court case law that I was trying to cite to her. And, we should be taking this stuff to a court of equity for declarations. And that's if you guys are open to it. So I guess that's my time.
Great. Thank you, Derek. Any questions of Derek? Seeing none. Thank you for speaking with us as usual. Board members. Motion to receive the report, item number 14. Any questions on the report? Sorry, I should ask questions first. Any questions? Nope, seeing none. Motion to receive. Mayor Tory, seconded by Councillor Ford. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Board members, public, that's the last item on the public agenda. Our next meeting will be held in accordance with the public health guidance at that time. And hopefully we're getting closer to meeting in person. Motion to adjourn. Ms. Kostakis, second by Vice Chair Nunziata. All in favor? Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.